The quality. Good morning, good morning. It's good to be on the radio with the program Integrity Watch. Integrity Watch is a 1 hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. It is aired every Wednesday on Truth 96.1 FM. It runs from 11 to 12 noon. And a repeat of the program will be on Sunday from 9 to 10 p.m. I want to say thanks to all of those who've been following. And the program is live on Wednesday, and on Sunday, the one you listen to on Sunday is a repeat. So please take note of it. Do not call when it's being played on Sunday evening. Yes, so it's live today on Truth 96.1, and it will be here until 12 noon. Integrity Watch is a primary radio-based communication and information dissemination platform of CENTAL. It is a key advocacy tool that provides essential information around the state of the fight against corruption, national integrity building efforts, as well as promotes the culture of accountability, transparency, integrity, and evidence-based decision-making across all sectors of Liberia. Under CENTAL's National Integrity Building Anti-Corruption Program, funded by the government of the people of Sweden through the Swedish International Development Corporation Agency, or SIDA, the radio program serves as an engagement, coordination, and advocacy platform that provides citizens and other stakeholders support for the fight against corruption and bad governance. As part of this program, CENTAL has established the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, known as ALAC. So the ALAC is an independent platform that enables citizens to freely report and seek redress to corruption and other integrity-related issues in their communities, counties, and the country at large. There is a team of professionals at ALAC, including lawyers who are ready and willing to respond to whatever complaint you will file. So we encourage our citizens to take advantage of this process, knowing that the fight against corruption requires all of us working together to make this better. So please take advantage of it and to call our Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. There are different means you can use to contact our Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. The email address is alac@cental.org.lr. It's spelled ALAC@CENTAL.org.lr. The Facebook address is CENTAL ALAC, spelled CENTALALAC. The hotline number that you can call to report issues about corruption is just 4432. 4432. That's the number you can call to report issues about corruption and integrity related. We encourage people who want to take advantage of this number to please have basic facts. Call the number and be able to report issues. If you need access to information, you can call that number. You need legal advice, you can call the number. We can help you out. So please, let's do this together. It's our way of helping Liberia and Liberians to make Liberia better. No one, absolutely no one, is going to make this country better if you and me don't put our hands together to make it work. So let's do it together. make this place a better place. Just as any other country would be. We can make Liberia like Rwanda, Ghana, those places that you have admired. Liberia can be as that. But it requires you thinking positive and working positively to make this place better. So the numbers that the 4432 number is free of charge, so it's toll free. If you call in the number, you have no stress, no worries. The numbers, you just need to have your phone charged. You can call, it's free of charge. You can send text messages, please do. The Integrity Watch radio program is very civil and informative with zero tolerance on the use of invectives and other denigrating comments. So when guests appear on this platform, they are guided by this rule. Today is Wednesday, December 14th, and the year 2022 is actually at the end. Tomorrow is the 15th of December, so it means that we are gradually smelling and about to enter 2023. And for your information, 2023 is our electioneering year. So today is December 14, 2022, and this edition of the program is playing host to Dr. Akiah Glay. She is the gender officer at the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, and attorney at law, Isaac Nyantee Jr., and he coordinates our advocacy and legal advice center at the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. The both of them have come to talk about CENTAL's recently launched State of Corruption Report. So it's an annual activity of the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia under its National Integrity Building Anti-Corruption Program that seeks to gather the views of citizens about corruption and other integrity-related issues within the country. So the report was launched. Both of them have come so that we dig deeper into that report so we have an understanding of what the report is about. But before we do that, let us go to a little update. Let's give you update. Like I said, update from CENTAL. Like I said, we've launched the State of Corruption Report, and it was launched, and we observed the 16 days of activism. We observed the 16 days of activism. So the 16 days ran from November 25th to December 10th. So there were a series of activities that we undertook during the period of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. So we had online symposium or online discussion with different panelists discussing issues about gender-based violence. We had campus-based activities that we created awareness. We brought students together, university students. We were at the AME University, the African Methodist Episcopal University, and then we moved to the United Methodist University. So we had this discussion. We brought students together and brought different panel members to be able to debate on issues about gender-based violence. It's our way of joining different organizations that were in the campaign to see how we can elevate and increase awareness around gender-based violence. So, I mean, we did that, and our outreach activities are ongoing. Well, currently we have the team under the Integrity Club. They are engaging with schools in Painesville. I understood that they should have engaged with the Effort Baptist and other schools in the Painesville area today, and they've been engaging with different schools. And we have our Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. The team has been engaging with communities in different areas, different locations, and the engagements are ongoing. So don't be surprised. You're going to see our team members in your community at your intellectual center so that we can discuss issues about corruption. The thing there is, when people don't know about something, They don't know what to demand for. So when they are aware and they can have more information, knowledge is power, as you may be aware. So when we give the information, we providing the relevant pieces of information to people so that they can be able to have that power to demand for accountability from whosoever they should demand those people accountability from, whether it's the city community leaders. They need to be accountable to the community people. Whether it is the client chiefs, they need to be accountable to the people. So I mean, we are doing all of these to increase awareness around the issue of accountability and transparency. So let's go to little things that matter very quickly and speak to His Excellency, the President of Liberia. Your Excellency, we followed you yesterday. Thanks so much for the representation. As usual, we always commend you when you represent Liberia, even though you were far, far ahead of the 3 days event. 3 days event, you spent 6 days, even almost 10 days before the event. What were you doing? We don't even know why you were doing that. Just for 3 days, the interaction started yesterday and then it will end tomorrow. But you've been there since you've been in America. What the dividend of your stay in America? We've been funding all of your stay there. Our LBS team, the director general, the deputy director, 2 deputy director general, they've gone to America. The Ministry of Information, my people. Well, Your Excellency, good morning. Good morning. We really say thank you. Like we said, thanks for the representation. And I mean, the leadership in our country, even though there are some areas we still have concern about, but on a general note, I think thank you. You are the president of Liberia, you're the leader of our country. So when you do the commendable, we're going to commend you. And when you do the one that are condemnable, we're going to condemn. We're not going to bite our tongue on anything condemnable. So, but we've come to bring few things to your attention, Your Excellency. We're still concerned about your stance against corruption in the country. You have not proven to show that what you have, that cliche that you've had over the time. We are committed to the fight against corruption. All of your officials have said that. We've heard that time without number. But what we are yet to see is the action, concrete action taken toward what you've committed yourself to. We've looked, we've listened, we've looked, we've listened, but we've not seen anything. We have not heard anything concrete happening. So we are very concerned. Allegations of corruption. We're going to talk about that in our report. And then another one again in Magibie County, the superintendent of Magibie, the commissioner, one of the commissioners in Magibie, both of them, they've been accused of intimidation, harassment, and solicitation. They've been accused of that. I mean, another one again against your official, they've come out again. And what else, something else will happen? I mean, the other ones that we already have, the LACC report, that one is another thing. The passport saga report, we don't know what has happened to it. All of these things, they are still hanging around, lingering, and we don't even know. So it doesn't show clear signs. It doesn't show that you are actually serious about committing the government to fighting corruption. When these allegations come up and you order for investigation, the investigations are done, and then you just sweep it under the carpet and nothing else happened. I mean, it's seriously hampering. It's undermining the fight against corruption. You are actually undermining this fight because you have not shown that particular political will to make sure that when these people are accused, they can be able to either be suspended or dismissed where possible, so that they can find that this in court. When they are exonerated, then they can either take over the job back. We still have the LACC vice chair. He's still the one vice chair at the LACC, even though he has allegations of corruption hanging over him. We still have the NEC chair still chairing the National Elections Commission, leading us to elections, critical elections next year, but she has corruption matter hanging over her. And the list is endless, and you do nothing about them. So we are concerned about these things, Your Excellency. Please, you need to do something about all of these things. So for the sake of time, let's go to the legislature. we want to speak to our lawmakers. We really call on you. We want to ask you to see reason to support and increase budgetary allocation to integrity institutions and make sure that they are independent enough to be able to execute their mandates. There are different ways integrity institutions are arm twists. We either arm twist them by underfunding them. We either arm twist them by passing laws that will make them subjected to certain things. We don't arm twist them by either, appointing people that we want to control easily. I mean, there are different ways we arm twist the integrity institutions from independently executing their mandates. So please make sure that you help pass, support these institutions by increasing their budget, support our educational sector by increasing budget to education, support the infrastructure development, support the health sector by increasing budgetary allocation to these areas. When you do that, then you exercise your oversight role very, very robust in a strong manner, ensuring that when these people have money to independently execute their functions, then they can be held accountable. The accountability measures be strengthened so that we don't have loopholes. And like I said, Liberia can generate 1 or 2 million in revenue only if we tighten the screws on corruption. Only if we close all of the loopholes, ministers, lawmakers having companies and the passing contracts on the table and giving it awarding it to their companies. Ministers are public works. They having companies established and they're passing contract under the table and awarding it to their own companies. When we stop all of these things, we're going to raise revenues that can reach millions. But when we have all of these things happening, people are accused of corruption. The culture of impunity is the one seriously undermining the fight against corruption in Liberia. Thank you. Again, elections coming up next year. The ECC, the Elections Coordinating Committee, they've come up with early warning that they still don't see anything happening for elections. I said we are seriously going to have the same embarrassment we had with the National Housing and Population Census if care was not taken to address the issue about the elections. We had timetable that was released by the National Elections Commission that said voters registration should have started, awareness and sensitization should have started. All of these things have not started. And we are now at the close of December, which is the close of 2022, and 2023 should be elections. It means that we're going to be having, if we are not careful, we're going to have the same situation that we have with the National Housing and Population Census that brought serious embarrassment to the country because we have incompetent people that we had in place to run serious national issue, and we didn't take it seriously when the LACC came out with the allegation against these people to correct to put in place corrective measure. It led us to the embarrassment. Today, we're going to elections again, and the National Elections Commission, the commissioner of the National Elections Commission has issued a hanging over her, the same conflict of interest hanging over her. We still have her there, and we're about to change the timetable, change every other thing because things are not going right. Please, let's do the right thing so that we don't have our country going through such embarrassment all of the time. Only thing that we need to do is the willpower, and that willpower lies in the hands of the president of Liberia. You are the one who have the appointing power for these people you appointed. When they are not doing the right thing, when things are going contrary from what you expect or whatever is what you expected, but that's not what the Liberian people expect. The Liberian people expect so much better than for people to be taking them into embarrassment all of the time when it comes to national issue. Please, you need to do something about this. Elections next year is seriously concerning that it concerns our peace, it concerns our democracy, it concerns the safety and the well-being of the people of Liberia. So please do not do your business as usual with this. Please, let's do it and do it properly. Thank you so much. Let's take a break. When we come back, we go over to our guests. Thank you, and thanks for being there. Joining us, the program you are listening to is called Integrity Watch. It's a 1 hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. It is aired every Wednesday of Truth, 96.1 FM. It runs from 11 to 12 noon and is repeated on Sunday from 9 to 10. So, if you were not listening earlier, we said today in studio we have Dr. Akiah Glay. She is the gender officer at the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, and Atty. Nyantee Jr. is the coordinator of our advocacy and legal advice center at CENTAL. Recently, CENTAL launched its State of Corruption report. So the State of Corruption report gathered views of Liberians on the state of corruption and other integrity-related issues in the country. It is done. This is the second edition of the report. In 2021, the first report was launched. So they're going to talk about the statistics and tell us about what the people think. So this activity is done under our ongoing National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program. So the number is a 3.5-year program that seeks to provide citizens or empower citizens with relevant pieces of information to demand for accountability in Liberia. So with that, there are different activities that we have outlined under the program. That we talk about the Integrity Club. We have these Integrity Club members engaging with schools and all of that. We have the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center engaging with communities and providing mechanisms for people to report corruption. We have the Open Expenditure Initiative, under which the Open Expenditure Forum will ask citizens to speak with their leaders on issues about county social development funds. So there are different things that we do. We just want to lay the basis for the report that we launched and we're about to talk about. So let's go over to our guests so that we begin this point of discussion. We begin with Isaac Nyantee. Atty. Nyantee, welcome to studio.
Good morning, Sam, and thank you for having us here this morning to discuss issues that borders on corruption and for a reformed and changed Liberia. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us in studio, and thanks to all the listeners. We are here to talk about the school, the report that is launched by CENTAL. So thank you again for having us.
Okay, let's begin with you. Give us some insight about the State of Corruption report. So when you hear us talking about SCORE, it's the State of Corruption report. So the short is SCORE. So she's going to be talking about SCORE and State of Corruption. So when you hear those two, it means the same thing. So let's get a background of the State of Corruption report.
Okay, so thank you again. As we said or stated earlier by Mr. Senzota, that the State of Corruption report is a report that is launched by the institution, the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. So this corruption report is basically to know the state of corruption in Liberia and institutions that are working towards combating this menace in Liberia. So, at CENTAL, that we implementing what we call the National Integrity Building and Anti-Corruption Program, and there are numerous activities under this program, one of which is the launch of the report or the gathering of information concerning corruption, the fight against corruption in Liberia. So the SCORE report, this is the second edition of this report. This report was launched last year, the first edition, and this is the second one. And what do we do under this to gather information about this report? First of all, we use the methodology is we use a mixed method. When I say mixed method, I mean we use the primary, we collected primary data and secondary data. So primary data, we have integrity club students that we trained and to go into the field. We consider 9 counties this time around. Last year report was 7 counties, those counties that we are working in. And those 7 counties, we realized that we wanted to expand the scope of our investigation. Therefore, we added 2 more counties, Cape Mount and Maggie, to our counties that we are working in. And we send the enumerators to go and collect data from citizens and people, leaders, and chairmen in the community about their perspective about corruption. And then what we did next is we usually follow online news and newspapers to understand what it is or what corrupt issues that are arising every day in Liberia. After which we also verified. So after getting these information, they're reading books and reading newspapers and listening to online news, we then verified. And after that, we compile this report. But the compilation doesn't just don't compile and then publish. No, we gather institutions together, the relevant institutions, including the LSCC, the PPCC, and government institutions to validate this report. So this report was validated and confirmed by institutions relevant, and after which we launched this report on the 6th of December 2022. So we say that this report comprises of both primary and secondary data, and we also did desk review, and we targeted 9 counties in Liberia, and our scope or the population was 817. Last year we did 601, but as I said earlier, we intend to expand the scope. That's why we added these 2 counties. And more to that, we also wanted to get perspective of citizens from those 2 counties too. So that's what. And what we did is that we followed the population, because Liberia has had a census. The last time we conducted census was 2008, even though United Nations census is also indicating that Liberia population is over 5,000, but those census is based on the work that they have done in Liberia, an estimation. But then we tend to follow the 2008 census. So as to begin with, the report tells that last year report tells that 9 of 10 people interviewed said that corruption is high in Liberia. This year, this number still remains. 9 persons in 10 persons said that corruption is high in Liberia. And one of the things we tend to see this year is that last year, 54 of those people we interviewed were male, while 46 were female.
54%.
54% were male, while 46% were female. But this year, the number of female increased. So we have about 93% of those people interviewed were female. So yes, this year the number increased. But there are few questions that we ask the citizens, and questions that, because we drew a questionnaire that were taken into the field, And we did a spotlight on some other institutions like the national budget. We also analyzed the national budget, and we found out some corrupt acts in the national budget that's supposed to be, because the budget is supposed to be an instrument that will be able to implement government development programs. And these programs should benefit all persons, including women and persons living with disability. But over the period in our score report, even last year to this year, we also found out that there are still corrupt issues. There are still money that is placed within the budget that is still questionable. It should be questionable, and it is raised in our report. So before I go to the questions that were asked about which country is prone to corruption or institution, I would just like us to look at one of the things that we realized that was flagged out in our last year report and also this year report. So last year we found out that the Esther and Geraldine E. and J. Medical Center in Nyantee, Nima County, which is owned by Senator Jeremiah Kuhn, continue to receive budgetary support. So every year, money is allotted in the budget for this medical center, but it is said that this medical center is a private owned. So Jeremiah Kuhn claimed that he has turned over the facility to the government to be a government facility, but the record of transfer ownership is not seen. So by right, if you turn over an institution or a medical center that is huge like that, the record of transfer ownership should be seen. It's not seen. And we found out that for this reason, we realized that until we see the record, until this record is there, we claim that the citizens should be aware, and we should be aware about the money that is going there. So we say every year, even this 2022 budget, this 125,000 is allotted already in the budget for that E&J Medical Center. And over the period from 2016 to 2021, about the time we had that report, we had $952,462 allotted to that medical center. So that means every time money is going to that medical center, but is it government? Is it for Jeremiah Kuhn? Where is the transfer ownership? Is one of the things we found. And another thing we found is in the budget is that their integrity institutions, which we did mention of, are underfunded. So the integrity institutions that are supposed to be an independent institutions that should be equipped and empowered to fight corruption independently, they are underfunded. Money is allotted for some purposes that should not even be. So we found out that in the total budget has this year $811,587,341 that is approved for integrity institution. But the total budget, total budget. But for the $2,144,576 is allocated for transparency and accountability sector, so the integrity institution. But then for the 8% of this money is allotted to election. So that means the money that is for integrity institution is very, very low.
I want also go back to the issue about, let's make it clear that it is not that the issue about lawmakers owning clinics and owning schools and putting money in the budget for those institutions. For us, we believe that rather than putting it in the budget for your private institution, it should go to the John F. Kennedy Medical Center and empower that center. It should go to the Jackson F. Doe Medical Center. It should go to the Redemption Hospital. It should go to public facilities. It should go to the J.J. Dawson Hospital. The one in Kakata that was gutted by fire is yet to be reconstructed. All of these facilities, they need budgetary support. I will come on this platform. I'm a JFK of recent. I will come on this platform to tell you why JFK needs medical, it needs budget to increment. We're going to talk about that. It is not that we are against. In fact, the budget is for the country. If you have your private institutions and want to fund it, it should not be funded through the national budget. It should be funded because the money going there is going to you. The money going there is going for your benefit and not the benefit. The people who are going there, they are paying resources to the institution. So that is why we capture all of these things, and it is part of the conflict of interest we talk about. So when you are a lawmaker, you are the one who's supposed to be providing oversight over these institutions. But you yourself, you got school running, you got hospitals running, you got companies operating. These companies are receiving contracts undercover, and so let's go to what the statistics are.
Yes. Okay. So when we went into the field and did the primary data, as I said, we asked few questions.
Yeah.
And we said, to begin with, we said that, the state of corruption in Liberia, how it is. So the question was, so we said 9 over 10 persons said that corruption is high in Liberia. Then we continue by asking, say, how is the government committed in fighting corruption? 64% of the people we interviewed said that the government is not committed in fighting corruption. The government do not put time. They're not investing in fighting corruption. And last year, the ratio remained the same. The same people, number of people said that the government is not committed. Then we said, why government is not committed to fighting corruption? And 2/3 of the people we asked said, because corruption is very, very high. That's why, because if corruption was low, the government will be, then it will be seen that the government is committed. And we have 63% of saying that, well, the government, the president is a little bit reneging in fighting corruption. So the president, who is the head of state, he is also not putting in time in fighting corruption. So that's why. And we said, which public service is prone to corruption? So we have 56% saying the police service. 56% of persons interviewed said the police service are more prone to corruption. That means when you count in institutions, the police there, you have a lot of corrupt practices. The reason that the stated was that because when they go to the police, they need to pay for everything. They pay for sheets, they pay for transportation to go. If they are victimized, they pay for everything. So literally, the police is corrupt. And then we just didn't stop there because the citizen perspective in them, we went to the police and asked few questions. Like, this is what we gathered from the field. And the police said that even though not the basis for corruption, it should not be, but this, I'm quoting from what the police said, and it's in our report. The police said that they do not have basic necessity to function well. So they do not have buses, they do not have cars that is assigned to take them to areas when there's information or when there's some crime that they need to attend to. And they also said that they do not have basic stationaries that come to their offices. According to them, the last time they ever received uniform were, I think, the last training of Ellen Johnson. So since then, they sold their own uniform and they get their own booths. And so this is the reason why, if they do not have, and the state is depending on them, the citizens are depending on them to help in the process. And so therefore, they will have the citizens also pay. And we have 60% citing medical service. They said the medical service.
The next service in line.
Yes. The medical service is prone to corruption. So you have the police, you have the medical service, and 36% say the court. Every time you go to the court, they rule sometimes in favor of the perpetrator, or sometimes they do not even
the DPS pocket.
The DPS pocket, and they sometimes do not even give you justice. Most times do not give you justice. So we went on to ask, like, if you have confidence, which institution do you think you can really depend on to fight corruption? Which institution you really think that when you have a corrupt issue you want to go and report to? And most of them cited the media. They said they trust the media to go and report corruption. They trust that the media will be able to fight corruption. And we anticipate that the reason is because the media is always flagging issues that confront the citizens, issues that the citizens are confronted with. And so, and they also cited civil society. They believe that civil society can help in the process, can speak in their voice. But otherwise, they do not trust the executive, they do not trust the judiciary, and they do not trust the legislature for fighting corruption. They do not have confidence in the government as a whole for fighting corruption.
Okay, let's take Isaac. Isaac, let's get you quickly. What's your input? Get what?
Yeah, I think Dr. Glay said it. The report is more evidence-based, and so we were also asking Liberians. So 9 out of 10 Liberians spoken to say the situation remains the same. So the question is, why do you say the situation remains the same when it comes to the fight against corruption? People spoke about the lack of, in the political world, the lack of persecution. And some of the cases said, the Sheikh Bashir case, for example. So our pastor was caught in the hand of Sheikh Bashir. Today he's in the US, he has been arrested. He's been persecuted. The president constituted a committee headed by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. I'm sure you are journalists, maybe apparently you have heard about the Okana report. Yeah, we haven't heard about the Okana report. The neck you spoke about was also somewhere around November 2021. LCC came up with a report, entire board of men for conflict of interest in the issue of awarding contract, that the firm that got the contract, the CEO of that firm is a brother to the chair of the board, the chair of NEC. And so the LCC had to go to court to the government of Liberia, all right? We put it, got in their court for corruption and breach of the code of conduct. That matter was brought for the criminal court. Can you imagine that? That matter was dismissed on basis of procedural grounds.
Explain what you call procedural grounds.
So when you go to court, there are substantives, there are procedural. There are times for you to file a matter. There are proper suits for you to file. So your failure to file in time and your failure to file the proper suits as required, that entire matter, whether it has merit, it can be thrown out. There are times required for you to file, and there are the proper suits for you to bring before the court. So if you miss the step, it's short. If you miss the step to come before the court, they throw the matter up. So they say they threw that matter up because of procedural grounds. So the court did not waste its time to go into the merits of the case. That's why the neck is sitting over there. Even the issue of the Ministry of Agriculture, the most recent hearing that was done by the LACC over the issue of what happened at the Ministry of Agriculture, the corruption allegations. Up till now, with such a report from the Ministry from the LACC that has been forwarded to the Ministry of Justice, what did the President do? What did the House do? Instead of going forward and show that justice investigate what's happening, the President said, "My man, I tell you, you won't put me bad out there." And while you ran to capital, the capital and you show that the common LACC was dissolved. So with all of these issues, and even the matter that took place at the Port of Pekenaway with Charles MacArthur Gore, that was funding over $300,000 for that scandal. And he admitted at an internal hearing for the money. He's alleged. There are over 8 persons who the LACC has prepared indictment for. I'm sure by now, maybe apparently you have heard about the outcome of that investigation. We haven't heard about it. No. So if these things continue, do you expect the public to have confidence level in it?
These are some of the reasons they cited.
Those are just some of the stories.
High allegations of
high allegations, and we did not just listen to this. We follow up on these things, and those things are happening every day. And so that's why when you ask the people and say, "Look, where do you have confidence?" They tell you the media. They tell you the same, and that's why as CSO we have the responsibility to continue to go, because for us it's about the consciousness of society. Somebody keep asking, what happened in the private sector? What happened in the private sector? Same if you work for a company, you sign a contract, you have a responsibility to ensure that you follow the norms, the practices of the company. Yeah, Every month when CENTAL pay you, government abroad take taxes for your life. So you have the government has the onus to ensure that they do what is required with our taxes. We cannot be discussing that a man was caught on a passport, a man that is involved in financial scandal. You tell the Minister of Foreign Affairs to investigate. Even the issue of Madam Keita, the president's office. The president constituted a committee headed by his legal advisor. He went one step, he said the police should investigate. The legal advisor, the inspector general of the police, who do they work for? So how do you want us to take it? And for God, he ever say, how do you want to take it? And they say the lady was vindicated, where she allegedly asked investors for bribe.
And the allegation is up again.
Yeah.
It
might give it. So where are we when it comes? So for us, the situation is not improving over time. And you want to ask people, say, why don't you report? So why don't you report? So we understand now why you discouraged, but why don't you report? The message that nothing will happen.
Okay.
And same with just a few stories that I gave you. What has happened to Keita?
Nothing.
What has happened to the Bashiru case? What happened to the child adult case? What happened? In fact, we've been informed by one of our informants from the usual recorder that Madam Jenny Cooper runs everything at the usual recorder. And despite that daily report from the LACC that the part of the justice, nothing up to now, no, even by the president say, you know what, in the interest of the public, step down and let it show that, step aside, let an investigation go. The president said, no, why you went over there, climatic year wisdom, I will change you. I will say we get money, probably I will take the commissioner for 5 and just sell it.
Okay.
That's what we are,
All right, the program you are listening to is called Integrated Watch. It's a one-hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. So we're talking about the State of Corruption report released by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. A few points that they talk about. They said primary data were collected, and then the ALAC Club members collected the data. They added 2 counties, bringing the counties to 9. Initially, it was 7 counties, but they added 2 counties. Margibi and Grand Cape Towns were added to bring the counties to 9. 817 respondents, data were collected from 817 respondents. They were able to, as compared to last year, they did media monitoring and they did a validation, they verified, did different validations, they brought stakeholders together, including the LACC, the GC, which is Governance Commission, the different targeted institutions, to validate what the people said. And it said they also went over to those who were accused by the citizens, like the police, and the police gave their side. The police said, yes, we agree, the citizens think about these things, but we are challenged. We are challenged. We don't have resources to operate. The last time they ever issued us uniform was under the last regime. We don't have logistics. We don't have vehicles assigned to these different places. So when people bring complaints, we ask you to facilitate, to pay the officer way to go and do the arrest, so that we can be able to dispense justice. All of these things were captured in the report, and we made recommendations. And part of the recommendations is the government of Liberia should increase budgetary support to the Liberia National Police, especially as we go over to elections next year. The police must execute its mandate to maintain the peace of our country. It means that we empower the police with logistical support, with financial support, so that they can go and maintain the peace of our country. But these people are challenged, and they've said it in the report. So let's open the lines so that you can participate on the program very quickly, and we can take few calls, and then we call it a day. The number to call, 077-0175162. That's the number to call to be live on the program, Integrated Watch. It's a one-hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. It is aired every Wednesday on Truth 96.1 FM. It runs from 11 to 12. The number to call again, 077-0175162. 077-0175162. So then they asked the people, why do you think that corruption is high? Even though you said corruption is high, why do you think so? The people said there were rampant allegations of corruption all over the place. All over the place, allegations of corruption, but nothing happening. Let's take this caller. Good morning. Your name and where are you calling from? Come on, let's hear you. Okay. Thank you so much. Your points are well noted. 07701756162. That's the number to call to be live on the program. Targeted Watch is a 1 hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. It is aired every Wednesday at 96.1 FM. It runs from 11 to 12 noon. So yes, the police they say, oh yes, we don't have logistics. And then next week, we're going to create another time to come and talk about the recommendations. Today we talk about the substantive of the report, the daily basis for the report, and we talk about all of the things that were captured, the numbers, and all of those things. So we'll come back. We're going to talk about the recommendations so that you know what we recommend. Let's take this caller. Good morning.
How you doing? I'm Amos Hosking. I'll call you from Police Academy.
Mr. Gator, let's hear you.
Thank you. I'm like from Maryland County. I really monitor your show and I'm very impressed with what you are talking about.
Okay.
You have to try to reflect out those things are very more rampant in Maryland County.
Okay.
So I just want to recommend that your institution be extended in Maryland County so that the citizens of that area can have a release, because the issue of police that you talk about is always happening where when people carry cases to the police station, you have to go and pay money to go and arrest the suspect or whatsoever. Even you put that there whenever they investigate you and you are found guilty, we have to find money to transport that suspect to the prison compound we will give. Other thing, if you get to the medical health center, where you get to the lab, all of those things are there before they carry on any other lab issue on you. They will ask you to pay some money and things. And so those things, they are issues that really disappointing our people. For us, we run an organization in people that they call the concern movement.
Okay.
And they speak up for it. So I recommend that your organization will be extended in people so that we all can work together to see how best we can improve the peace in the country so we can have a better life. Thank you very much.
Thank you so. Okay, thank you so much. Your points are well noted. Okay, we can take 2 or 3 more calls. 07701756162. That's the number to call to be live on the program. Targeted Watch is a 1 hour radio program brought to you by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. I mean, let's give a little emphasis on the police. The work that the police is doing is a sacrificial job. Imagine somebody work for a whole round month and they get salary of less than $200 US. But those guys, they still honor the rain, under the sun,
Sure.
and they go arrest suspects. They sit on motorbike with the suspect.
And
Do you know the risks involved? Let's take it out.
Sam, because we talk about the issue of sectors being most poor, right? We say the police sector, right?
Mm-hmm.
And up to 40% of respondents spoken to said, who ask him, but why do you pay bribe? It's on the speed of services.
Mm-hmm.
So if the police is the most corrupt sector, it means if they must provide service, it has to be expedited. So there is some of the people spoken to, almost 40% say we pay money in speed of services. That's what we are as a country.
All right, let's take this call. Good morning. Your name and where are you calling from? Okay, Augustine, let's hear you quickly.
Brother, what you are saying here is just that we have to come to view because we just say we don't come to view like your waste.
Mm-hmm.
These things are actually the fact very at the court at the view, go there, please down
Mm-hmm.
go there the money. Nothing you they compare with carry without spending money. Nothing. Everything is money, everything is good. So they tell me now. If you go all around, you go to one of these hello?
Yeah, we're getting you.
If you go all around and say, okay, I'm pleasing myself, then I should look closer to go with the angle go to say that injustice. So I get it. But one thing that surprised me to see that is people of the house of representative project is about, that getting me
It's been like that for a while.
They cannot get less than a million. That is I don't know where the people looking at.
Okay. Thank you, August. Thank you so much. So let's take your parting comments quickly.
We have asked for, in our recommendations, we have asked for better budgetary support to the LMP, and we have asked for the formation of a fast track code. We believe that if you are properly supported, there should be no basis. That is, if you are properly supported as per what the budget requires, there should be no basis to get involved in corruption. So to coin it up, say a fast track corruption code. Those are key issues that should be looked at. And we said in our last year's report as a recommendation. Again, we have placed it in this particular year report. And we will have time to come back and to talk about it.
Yeah, we will. We will certainly come back and talk about it.
Yeah, so I would just like to say thanks to the listener and thanks for having us in the studio. We know that we will be here again to talk about the recommendations and other things concerning the report. Otherwise, thank you and thank you for having us.
All right, so we were talking about the State of Corruption report released by the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. It captured views of the citizens about corruption, and it talked about which are the sectors that were prone to corruption, and they mentioned the Liberia National Police, and they stated the reason why they thought corruption was high in Liberia. They said lack of prosecution, rampant allegations of corruption. I mean, even you complain, nothing comes out of it. So all of these things were issues that informed their perception about increased level of about corruption being high in Liberia. So my name is Sam Zota. I'm the Media and Communications Officer at the Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia. My colleague, Mark Brandau, has been behind the camera, making sure our visibility goes beyond the studio. Join us next week for another edition of the program. Better still, Saturday 9 to 10 is a repeat. The program is called Integrity Watch. Goodbye.